Hello guys, welcome here to another episode of Out of Turn 4. I'm Brian here. Coming up on the show, wow, we got a lot to recap as far as race weekend goes, and finally I was able to watch a lot of it, minus the Xfinity race. But hey, we all miss some, right? Anyway, we're going to talk trucks at Texas. We're going to talk IndyCar at Texas, and then Xfinity Cup at Richmond. We'll also have a little bit of racing news. There really wasn't much in the way of news this week, but I figure two of these stories need discussing. And then, of course, we got our race predictions for Easter weekend at Bristol on the dirt, by the way. So we begin with the recap of Richmond. So we're going to begin with the NASCAR recap, and then we're going to go into IndyCar, because I feel like I got a lot to say on the IndyCar side as well as the NASCAR Cup side. But Carson Hocevar, he is finally at long last a Truck Series winner. He wins in a wild finish at Texas. Of course, not many people, I'm sure, happy about it. He made contact with Nick Sanchez, who ultimately spun up into Zane Smith. They both wrecked. Hocevar was ahead at the last scoring loop and thus was named the winner. Of course, again, his first career win in the NASCAR Truck Series there. And congrats to him. I'm so glad he's finally a winner. We know he's talented. I mean, at least I know he's talented, and I think he's going to do well in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with the right team. But, you know, I can't say I'm proud of that move. I mean, it might have been an accident. I haven't really seen a full replay to get a gauge on it, but I don't like people winning that way. I could tell you that much. I'm not a fan of it, but a win's a win. He's had this coming for quite a while, and it's finally good to see him get it done, of course, at Texas, even though it's a shit track, but I digress, and I'll have more about Texas in a few moments. But we move on to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Chandler Smith, he gets his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series win at Richmond, and man, what a way to huff his shoulder. That's actually why I'm wearing my colleague shirt today, for Chandler Smith, man. I'm telling you, I thought he had the win at Texas, or not at Texas, at Las Vegas earlier this year. He just used his stuff up so much. But man, he should be a two-time winner this year. You know, that thought just runs through my head so much. I mean, just Colleague nailed it. Colleague nailed it signing this kid, you know, and he's definitely got a bright future. He did very well in the Cup race, too. So, you know, Carson Hocevar Chandler Smith has a very bright future, I think, in NASCAR. And, you know, we're going to enjoy his run in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I really think, you know, him and Sammy Smith, and, you know, I feel like him and Sammy Smith and Josh Berry, and I'll talk about Josh Berry in a moment as well. I think they got bright futures, but I think those two especially, Sammy and Zane Smith, Sammy and Chandler Smith, who are not related, and of course Zane Smith. So I think the Smith boys have a lot to look forward to in their future. I think they're going to be pretty decent at the Cup level. But I'll talk about Josh Berry in a second, but I got to talk about Kyle Larson. He continues the Hendrick dominance in the NASCAR Cup Series this season. He now claims his first win. So 3 of the Hendrick guys, I believe, have now, well, 2 of them actually, because Byron's won 2. I don't think Bowman's won a race yet. So no, Kyle Larson joins the party though, gets his 20th career win. Josh Berry came home in second, relieving Chase Elliott in that Hendrick Motorsport Chevy. Wow. I mean, you know, Josh Berry, he's a guy, I mean, I got to look up, and Wikipedia page, probably not the best place to find your info on a guy. But Josh Berry, man, I'm telling you, 32 years old, this isn't his first go-around in NASCAR either, I should note. He got a few races with Junior Motorsports back in the early, mid-2010s. He got them in 2014 to 2016. Put up some okay results. Didn't really have the backing. He ran a race for Obeka as well at Darlington. He ran a race for basically a start and park Toyota team at one point. Had nothing showing. But, man, I'm telling you. And then, goes part-time again with Junior Motorsports. He spent a lot of his career, by the way, with Junior Motorsports, even at, late models and stuff, I'm sure. But, man, he's paid his dues. That's the point I'm trying to make. He's paid his dues, man. I mean, he ran 2 races for Spire 2 years ago, and now filling in for Chase in top-tier equipment in the NASCAR Cup Series. I mean, and here's the thing, and I'm going to look up his teammate Justin Allgaier, of course, real quick, because I'm pretty sure he's done similar, of course. Keep in mind, he was a NASCAR Cup Series driver for a while. Okay, he's only run 80 races in the NASCAR Cup Series, but he's run a couple years. Driving that H. Scott Motorsports car. If you recall, he looked really good, I believe, at Richmond one of the years he drove, but of course 8th place at Bristol. But he was up there competing at one of the Richmond races as well. But, as much as I say don't get sold on Josh Berry, I think he's a guy who, if he's in that Final Four, if he's in the playoffs, which he's going to be, but I think if he makes it to the Final Four, I think he's a guy that these Cup teams should really consider. And I mean, he finished 4th in the Championship 4 last year. But I think if he can, make it again and make some noise, he's going to put Cup teams on notice. I think, again, it's clear that I feel like Richard Childress Racing wants to expand. And to me, they should, seeing Austin Hill's success. Josh Berry should be given an opportunity with, RCR or Beard Motorsports next year. Give him something. Even if, But the other thing is, as well, if he's going to stay in the Chevy camp, it's going to be hard to do because, Trackhouse just signed both Suarez and Ross Chastain to 3-year contract extensions each. Hendrick has no vacancies for years to come. And, the only option is Spire. And Spire really isn't a team I feel Josh Berry could showcase his talents on. So, as much as I want to see him go Cup, I don't want to see him race for some shit team. Okay, I don't want to see him race for a nobody that's going to get him nowhere. I want to see him drive for Beard or drive maybe a third Colleague car. If Colleague decides to expand, that's an option. I think, though, Austin Hill's going forward maybe in the 33 for Richard Childress. But again, we got a long off season till that. And I just hope that Josh Berry will get his chance next year, even if it's a part-time schedule. Stay at Junior Motorsports at that rate in the Xfinity. And again, I'm probably going to take heat for it. But I feel like Josh Berry's best chance, if he wants to be in a good Cup ride, is ride the wave. Roll with the punt. Ride the wave with Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Stay there, run a part-time Cup schedule, and just hope that one of these Chevy guys, or just one of these guys on a top team, get put on notice going into next season. He's not not Joe Gibbs, obviously, because we know Sammy Smith's the next guy for them. And John Hunter's in there. So that's not going to happen. But ride it, maybe a Ford team. Stuart Haas is losing Kevin Harvick this year. That could be another option for him. I actually just thought of that one. Maybe even that. So, but again, we'll talk more about this when the off-season comes up. When we get a little bit closer to mid-season and kind of get an idea of where things are going. Excuse me. But I do want to talk about a few other things that happened in the NASCAR Cup race. And one of these things Denny Hamlin has already discussed on his podcast, I'm pretty sure. And I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. So I'm just going to take my view on what happened. So Denny Hamlin, plain and simple, everybody saw it. It's black and it's clear as day. I was going to say clear, it's in black and white, but it's clear as day. That's plain and simple. It's clear as day. He spun J.J. Yeley. Of course, Hamlin got a speeding penalty or pit road penalty under caution, was sent to the rear. Denny Hamlin, it seemed like he got frustrated, ran right into the back of J.J. Yeley, spun him right around, brings out a caution. Denny goes on his podcast. Now, a week prior, the week leading into Richmond, Denny Hamlin said, drivers have no respect for each other. He said they have no respect for each other. We need to be more respectful racing around each other. And this week, I want to name this show so bad. Toyota drivers take no accountability. That's really the truth of it. And I think that's the theme of this episode, because Hamlin, based on, the quotes, and again, I'm paraphrasing what he said. I have not listened to the full thing, but I'm going to go on the paraphrasing that I saw. And then he said it was never his intention to wreck J.J. Yeley. This is from Jeff Gluck, who, of course, Jeff Gluck's looking for anything to get a couple clicks on his Twitter page, much like any other media personality, and can't fault them. It's their job. But Denny Hamlin apologizes for the J.J. Yeley wreck. It's very, very obvious I had no intention to wreck J.J. Yeley. Why would I wreck J.J. Yeley for 30th place? Well, then he continues on. Everybody makes mistakes. That was a dramatic blunder, just a huge miscalculation. He kind of took accountability. But, the onboard doesn't lie. He really didn't do much to stop himself from running into J.J. Yeley. So, but it's less about accountability, I guess, as it is about being hypocritical. And Denny Hamlin, by saying this, is a hypocrite. Because, let's face it, the first run-in with Ross Chastain last year, Ross misjudged it. Okay? Ross misjudged it. And Denny, instead of being understanding of what happened, realizing that he's a new Cup driver. Well, not really a new Cup driver. but a Cup driver who, for the first time in his career, is in a top-tier ride. Instead of realizing that, that he's still learning, learning how to race in top-tier equipment, because it's different, he says, oh, I'm going to get him back. I'll remember it. Then continues going on a 1.5 year witch hunt of, going after Ross Chastain. He goes on a 1.5 year witch hunt trying to take this guy down and ends it at Phoenix, supposedly. It's gotten to a point where, and it's funny, the people that are complaining about racecraft and it's just funny, the people complaining about racecraft and respect, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, they're the two that do the exact opposite. They have no racecraft. They have no class when it comes to racing around other people. Denny Hamlin has started multiple incidents in his career. The Chase Elliott one, fans will never let him forget. Let's also talk about Joey Logano. Let's talk about Brad Keselowski. Incidents he's either started or continued. Point blank, he's the last person that should ever be complaining about someone's racecraft, about someone's, about racing with respect. He's the last person who should be doing it. That's called casting stones in glass houses, and it's pretty much what it is. Racing etiquette. That's the word I've been looking for. Racing etiquette. He's the last person who should be complaining about etiquette because he's the one with the least amount of etiquette on the racetrack. We saw a lot more racing etiquette in the IndyCar race. I'll get to that in a moment. I know we're running pretty long. Well, I know we're 17 minutes into a half-hour show. So I'll move on. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, guys, so that's why I'm coughing a lot. But Joseph Newgarden, I gotta talk about Christopher Bell, too. Christopher Bell spins William Byron pretty late in the race. And apparently he has no idea of his surroundings at that moment because he blamed Ross Chastain for sending him into the 24. And maybe you can look at my Twitter page at Tinkle_B But Ross Chastain's nowhere near them. I mean, he's given him more than enough room. So, Christopher Bell, in the heat of the moment, which it was, instead of looking at a replay, immediately calls Ross Chastain a wrecking ball, says he got sent into Byron, later sees the replay, finally admits, it wasn't my fault after all, and apologizes to William Byron. But, and this is directly in line with his Toyota teammates. This is directly in line with Denny Hamlin, with Ty Gibbs, and especially with their former teammate Kyle Busch. It's directly in line with those guys of, we're going to wreck you, but we're not going to take accountability for it. We're going to blame, we're just going to say scores even, racing deal, We're just going to brush it off like it's normal racing, is basically the Toyota in the Joe Gibbs way, apparently. So, Christopher Bell going directly in line with his teammates that everybody hates, or his teammate and his former teammate that everybody hates, and his rookie teammate that everybody hates. So, You did owe William Byron an apology. Absolutely. But I think the guy you owe the biggest apology to is the guy in that number one. Because apparently the new rule in the NASCAR Cup Series, because of what Ross Chastain has done in his career and the mistakes he's made, and the guy's made a lot of them. But apparently the rule is if he's within a 50-mile radius of what's happening, he's going to get blamed for it. Nothing like framing, in this instance, an innocent man. And again, he has made a lot of mistakes last year. He made a few mistakes driving top-tier Xfinity equipment. He's not perfect. Ross Chastain is not perfect. He's a far cry from it in terms of his racing etiquette. But we've got to stop making him the scapegoat for everything that happens within his vicinity. Stop blaming Ross Chastain for your fuck-ups. Okay? It's getting old. Okay? I go back to the Championship 4 last year. You know, Chase got upset about Ross kind of dumping him at Phoenix, but look at that point in the race and look at the fact you cut across his front bumper. Do you really expect him to give you the space? Oh, man, and I'm a Chase Elliott fan, too. But I don't get why everybody in the garage, if they get involved in an incident, they immediately point the finger at the guy in the number one. I just don't get it, especially when he gave them the room. You know, but I'm making a call out. I'm calling out Christopher Bell. You, sir, owe a public apology. Not, I texted him midweek. We're good now. No, you owe Ross Chastain, just like you did William Byron, a public apology on Twitter. You owe him a public apology, and if you haven't done it yet, I'd suggest you log into the good old Twitterverse, and I suggest you send that tweet out very fast, because that's the guy you really owe an apology to. Because you just dragged that man's name in the mud yet again over your fuck-up. And he has not yet as of Monday night. So, Christopher Bell, get on your knees and start begging for forgiveness. All right, moving on. We got to talk IndyCar at Texas. This is going to be a long episode. Joseph Newgarden, he surprisingly wins he wins a surprisingly amazing IndyCar race at TMS. Ruined by a late caution, but I digress. 26th career win. Pato was the dominant car all day. I mean, he lapped the entire field. Which I don't get how that's entertaining for anybody. Watching him, running up on the entire field like that. But I will admit the two-lane racing was great. Begrudgingly, I'll admit it. However, I said it last year that I thought last year's race was not good enough to save Texas Motor Speedway for the IndyCar Series. Then Roger Penske, after his drivers being so happy after running there, Roger Penske's like, well, if my drivers love it, I'm going to sign the extension with them. You're just sinking yourself deeper. I mean, attendance was up. That's great. There's a track, though, that's a good few hours away. And I've said this before. It's a good ways away, but hey, I think it's better than Let me double check, see how far it is. But yeah, almost 4 hours away. 4 hours south. Okay, you got a better track down there that doesn't need a reconfigure, that doesn't need a repave, that's not stained with PJ1 compound and resin. You know, it was a great racing product. I will admit it. It was a great race, you know, but the fact that you got to put so much effort into the race, the fact that you've got to basically, you know, run a 30-minute highline practice to get a track ready to race. Is it, you know, I mean, it was worth the work this time, but how many times are you going to be able to do that before, you know, the racing just goes back to utter shit? I just don't think TMS, you know, I think there are a lot better races out there. You know, Homestead, I think Kansas could put on a good race for the IndyCar series. Kentucky, maybe even the Charlotte Oval could put on a great race for them. But I think those kinds of tracks would put on a better quality race. Even Michigan, I heard Connor Daly float that on Speed Street in Michigan too. And then if you want to stay in the Texas region, COTA's out there. So I feel like there's better races that are out there that can, you know, satisfy the IndyCar fan base than TMS. Because I feel like, you know, as well, the other factor, and this has been floated around too, that what happens with the NASCAR race is going to dictate a lot as far as what's going to happen to the future of TMS. Because if the Cup race is utter shit, I guarantee you right now, Texas is getting reconfigured. I think Texas is getting reconfigured regardless. To me, it should take the bulldozer still, but I think the reconfiguration's kind of, you know, a done deal. I know that the track team there is, you know, working with iRacing to figure out what's going to happen next. So we'll see. I still think the bulldozer is a simple solution. Sorry, I'm still a hater, but I'm going to move on to the racing news now. Josh Williams has been given a playoff waiver after his suspension, basically proving, you know, and someone tweeted this after the Hendrick penalty got lessened. You know, it got lessened, so, you know, if you remember the SpongeBob Free Balloon Day episode when they got arrested for 0.1 seconds, that's pretty much what happened to Josh Williams. He got suspended for a race. You can't do the crime, you can't do the time, don't do the crime. All right, you're free. And by the way, you're in the playoffs. Sorry. If you're disciplined by NASCAR, you shouldn't be given a waiver. Either that or you should change the rule about waivers and say that, forget it, you know, just whoever wins a race, as long as you're receiving cup points, you're in the playoffs. Plain and simple. Just change it to that because you've already eliminated the top 30 rule. So, you know, just bring it to that at this point. Make it a little bit more of a joke. Will Power and Team Penske have signed a long-term extension. Good for him. He's had a rough start to the year. Hope he can get it turned around. You know, we'll see what happens. Still a long season to go. We're on to the race picks. We only got like 45 seconds. So Truck Series Bristol, I'm picking William Byron. Cup Series on Bristol Dirt, I'm picking Tyler Reddick. I think he's going to get redemption this year in the Bristol Dirt race. All right, that's all we got for today. Sorry, I got to cut it real short here. But we want to thank you for watching. Thanks for listening to me whine and bitch for a half hour. Tune in to No Final Bell tomorrow. Tune in to Sunday Morning Tinkle on Sunday with Jason and I. And, of course, I'll be back here on Tuesday with another episode of Out of Turn 4. Until next Tuesday, guys, goodbye, everyone.